Important update for the Mazda CX-60. This vehicle here has two very interesting stories. First of all, the general background story is the new big Mazda SUVs are trying to fight against the premium SUVs at a lower price. This is counting for the CX-60, but also for the CX-70 and the 80 and the 90. And this specific vehicle here, when I drove it the very first time, the CX-60 at the European launch, I was kind of skeptical about the driving experience because so far Mazda vehicles, especially the smaller ones, but also the SUVs, they are always great in driving. It's so much fun to drive. And I didn't feel that with the Mazda CX-60. And then Mazda approached me and asked me, hey, can we sit down together? What can we improve? And let's fix things. And the interesting thing is exactly this is what happened now. So everything that I've criticized before, they want to fix now with this upgrade here, with especially suspension updates, and I'm really excited to drive it here now today to see if it worked what they have done. This story here now with Thomas Nautegefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with, first of all, upgraded color, this Circon Sand color, very interesting camouflage-like color. It was available, for example, for the CX-5 before, now also available for the CX-60, and I think it looks really unique and striking. Pretty cool, actually. This also top trimmable, so we have the high gloss black here in the front grille, for example. Sensors are hidden behind the Mazda logo. Overall, a very strong stance here for all the big new Mazda SUVs. Lamps here, optional matrix LED when you have a higher trim level. The one, for example, you can see right here now. The length of the CX-60 is 4.76 meters or 187 inches. The CX-80, which is also for the European market, the bigger brother, at the 5 meters or 197 inches. And the models you get on the Northern American market, CX-70 and CX-90, they are even a little bit longer at 5 meters and 10 than towards 200 inches. And the thing is that this is the only shorter model, and you know, fans from the Northern American market have also been asking for this one because it also makes sense to differentiate in shorter and longer model, definitely. Soon, of course, then more about the main driving aspect for today. 18-inch wheels standard. These here are the 20-inch wheels, which you get optional, and you can also get the black ones. And here it always says inline 6-cylinder. Yes, because they still use 6 cylinders. For example, for the diesel here in Europe, and also then for the turbo petrol engine on the Northern American market. Alternatively would be the plug-in hybrid. Soon more about all the engines. I think the design works very well. Also when we go towards the rear, here with this modern signature, also with the lights. Classic all-wheel drive system with a rear-wheel bias. That is also very important and interesting system because it's a longitudinal platform, you know, with longitudinal engine mount in the front and here for the 6-cylinder, inline 6-cylinder, and also with rear-wheel drive if you don't go for all-wheel drive versions. So for example, this diesel here is available as rear-wheel drive standard and also all-wheel drive then optional in the higher horsepower trim. That's very interesting. And what have they done with these updates? That's the crucial thing. So first of all, rear axle, this is like the most important thing. On the rear axle, because I felt before it was kind of like sometimes when you go over bumps, and especially for the plug-in hybrid version, which has more weight, it was like kind of like lifting off the ground a little bit. At the same time, not that comfortable. And also you didn't have this typical sporty Mazda driving feeling. And in the front also, the other Mazda models felt more precise from the steering. So what have they done now? In the front, there's the double wishbone. And they now reworked the front, actually, this double wishbone in the front. Also applied some stiffer dampening and also reworked the servo steering. So that means supposed to have a more precise steering feel and also more fun driving in and out of corners. At the same time, for the rear axle, which is a multi-link, also reworked completely. So that's very interesting what they've done here. First of all, there's larger travel or more travel. Then the springs have been softened for more comfort. At the same time, the dampers have been stiffened for better sportiness. And this mixture is supposed to lead us to a sportier feeling, at the same time more comfort. If this is going to work, I'm really excited to see. Yeah, it's like, but I mean, it's a very rare case where they took the direct feedback and really worked on it exactly what we have criticized before. And I mean, be it for that, you can only applaud Mazda for listening, getting the feedback and directly fixing things even before a major facelift or something like that. And under the hood, as I said here, the 3.3 liter diesel You see here this longitudinal mount, inline 16, also like, you know, as it's symbolized here. And you either get it with 200 horsepower on rear-wheel drive or 250 horsepower and all-wheel drive. This is here the latter, the stronger version. It's also equipped with a mild hybrid system, 48-volt board net, and the alternative would be the 2.5-liter four-cylinder, the plug-in hybrid drivetrain. And on the North American market, you get the 3.3-liter turbo petrol engine. The exact horsepower figures, acceleration figures, and so on, we also have it in the video description and also in a separate comment. The only thing they could have maybe not done, Autogefühl fake exhaust police needs to complain about this. Now to the interior with the key fob, that is nothing special at all, honestly. Door closing sound. It's actually solid. Also in the rear, let's see about the handles. Hey, that's better. So you know that sometimes they have the problem that when you snatch the handles that it feels like echo-ish, but they actually fixed it, so that's good. Then inside of the doors, here you also have like a structure here somewhat, and also this looks really nice with these lines and classic control. Also here with this top, you know, small galvanized stuff here for the window levers and so on. However, no fabric at the inside of the door pockets here. And then steering wheel with real buttons, really appreciate it, for the volume on the left side. There we go, and for the right side here with the cruise control settings, and the steering wheel itself conveys some sportiness indeed. Fabric seats would be base in Europe. In the US market you can get leatherette, which would look the same basically in the CX-90 only. Everything else, like here also, and also in the higher trim, is animal skin base, and they need to offer more animal friendly solutions, especially also for the higher trim levels, definitely. And then here, with one Medius 86 or 6'2", still have some headroom left. This is the one with the panoramic roof, which is also an option. And when I turn on the ignition, I can also open that for you. It goes like this. It's not that large, but it is one that you can actually really open with a small opening right there. Of course, without the panoramic roof, it will always be more silent, especially if you drive a little bit quicker on the motorway. However, what you can also do when you want to drive faster, or maybe also on a very sunny day, here is apply this real shade here, like this. You can also stop it in between or something like that. Steering wheel has a nice control for up and down, electric, in and out, so that's really nice to control. And yeah, just by the visual stuff, you have this typical Mazda driving feeling. That's already quite cool. Here also a structured dashboard. You can push it in a little bit. It's nice and structured, so that gives a very nice first impression. Here then the seats, electric, and the only thing I have to say about the seats, for very tall drivers, they're a bit short, and also you can see here from the shoulder. So I'm basically, I'm tall, but not the super tallest Michael Jordan guy or something. And I'm already taller than the seat itself, basically, from the shoulder. So that is maybe a problem with tall people. And they also don't offer too much side support. Cockpit with interesting solutions. First of all, here soft touch on the top part here, and then you can also get this leatherette dash right here with the contrast stitching. Glove box is also dampened like this. And my main point is here that we have the classic user interface, fan speed, climate unit, manual, warmer and colder, steering heating, seat heating when the engine is running, it would also work. So this is so easy to control this vehicle, and we're missing that with a lot of new cars nowadays. The screen has a horizontal layout and you control it from underneath. It's no touch in the Mazda mode, only if you go for Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, then it is actually in the touchscreen mode. And then here, it's a nice finish here on the top. Cup holders are also adaptive. Just here, this shifting lever when you start the vehicle, it has this rather old school design, right side and then like this step design. Not sure if that was really needed. I mean, you have to unlock it in the front anyway, so why just not pull it backwards or forward? I think that's something I would have wished for. And here in the front you can switch the driving mode. And this also has a nice clicking feedback, for example. So also see it in the instruments. Just turning off the engine again. Here in the middle part, it's really soft for your elbow. That's fine. Split opening. Also nice. I like this fabric covering underneath. You can also remove that thing for cleaning, for example. But it's good then it's just not like plain hard plastic in there. In two USB-C chargers, you've maybe already seen that. And more manual interface here, for example, with the manual volume knob, which also has this metal knurling around. So that's pretty cool. And this is also what why this car is popular, because it has the simple user interface. At the same time, it gives you quality stuff and so on. Then in the front, inductive charging pad. This is not ventilated though, so I would rather charge the phone via cable then, so it doesn't overheat. Driver POV, once again here with the buttons, which also have some clicking sounds. Yeah, and the music. The Bose sound system, by the way, has a pretty cool sound actually, like that. So, and then here we have the instruments, which are all digital actually, but they have this analog view, and I like that they have that. And then you also have this head-up display and the main infotainment system we have now set to the CarPlay or Android Auto mode. You can also control it from underneath, but you can see here now it suddenly turned into a touchscreen. And very important here, left behind the steering wheel, there's this button. Press it once and then you can deactivate this speed limit chime. Rear seats, first of all, applaud Mazda for going for a 90-degree opening here, almost 90 degrees, so you can very easily access the child seats, for example. I don't see a top tether here on the front seat. There's no ISOFIX on the front seat, but there's ISOFIX here just at the rear seats on the outside each. Then we have the middle console with seat heating, USB-C charging, and also a real power socket like this. We can put down this lower part like this. Here are some rubber lips, and you can also fold down the ski hatch already from here, so that's possible. And then when I'm driving, as I am like my size, you can see there's hardly any legroom here in the second seating row. So there you can also see that the length of this vehicle does not go into the legroom, but it rather goes into the trunk. Yeah, you can see that's like the disadvantage that they have, like this longitudinal platform offering the inline 6-cylinder. That makes the car long in the front hood and also makes it cool looking. Yeah, but here not the best package, so to speak. Then if you need more, then should probably go for the bigger one than for the CX-80. And here headroom is also close. Yeah, so we can say I can get long here, but it's not the most versatile in the rear. You can also change the angle. You have the seat a little bit like this, or then a little bit more backward if you like that. So yeah, this would be the more backward position. Now to the trunk or the boot, 570 liters. Let's see about that. Electric hatch. And then here, cabin trolley also fits in vertical underneath. The width here is almost 1 meter 10 or 43 inches. This ruler here is set to 1 meter or 40 inches at the moment, and that's also approximately the length. The height, let's check it out, because we can also remove this one here. Look at that. Here, this, and then we can also put this cover out. So this is an easy solution. And then the maximum height here is at about 30 inches. Or 76 centimeters. Now it gets interesting with folding the seats. Before that, very quickly a look underneath, because here's the Bose sound system, like the subwoofer. You can also remove this whole thing, but there's of course no real need for that. So now interesting is that on the left side we have two levers. So I can either here only fold the middle part, but if I then want to fold this one, it doesn't fold automatically down again. But I mean, it's an interesting solution that you can unfold just the ski hatch part from here, and if both are here properly back in place, and then I pull the lever again, it folds together down. And also the other side, of course, you can push it down a little bit more like this. Important is also, this is not the seat as I am driving. I had to put it forward first, and then you can put it a little bit more backward, because there's not so much legroom that it would fit with folding the bench. This is here a little bit cheaply done, look at that. So not a good finish at the back part of these seats here. That's maybe something, yeah, where they don't put so much effort in. And so I will measure now the total length, not quite to the seat, but rather to how I'm driving. And this is then here at 71 inches, or that's about 1 meters and 80. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge, here with the updated Mazda CX-60. 250 horsepower diesel, the 3.3 liters inline 6-cylinder. We're driving right here now, and see also about the suspension updates and so on. The acceleration figures for these deals, by the way, 8.4 or 7.4 seconds. 7.4 if you have the latter 250 horsepower all-wheel drive version, which we also have here then today. The rear-wheel drive version can of course be even more efficient. This one then just with a little bit more power, and also if you want the all-wheel drive. Starting here is on Madrid city traffic, so best greetings to all our fans in Spain. And the thing is that when you're driving slowly and around the city traffic here, it's actually reasonably silent already. So there's no like dual insulation of the windows and so on, so you can't feel it. But here the difference when you have the window lowered and you put it up is quite significant. So maybe you see about really high speeds later on. But actually when we are high, like in the lower speed regions, is very good as for the insulation, that it also gives you some calmness. This diesel here kind of feels like a classic diesel, also when being stationary. Yes, it has the mild hybrid system, so also the start-stop function is activated and so on, but it does have a typical classic diesel sound. However, it's also insulated here from the cabin, so it's not that it would be coming too loud into this cabin or something like that. Steering is something that is always has been famous with Mazda actually, and we recently had the updated Mazda 3 review where we're also pretty keen on the steering feel, and indeed I feel they have updated it. It is without a dead zone area, and it does what I expect from the steering, and that is nothing that can be taken for granted nowadays actually. It is in the Mazda 3 maybe still a little bit sporty, but the most important thing here is that it's feeling natural. So it's not exaggerating the movements, yet at the same time you don't have to turn it too much, and that's exactly to my liking. So good actually from the steering. And I also start here in this city traffic because we have more corners here and stuff, like just on the motorway, that we can also experience that. And also when we are facing some speed humps here now, for example, now the road is a little bit destroyed. Remember, we have the 20-inch wheels here. That means it will be better as for the comfort if you stick with these smaller wheels. So if you want the most comfort out of this vehicle, go with the 18-inch wheels and not with the 20-inch wheels. But so far, when the road is destroyed, I think it's fairly okay. It's good that I also have Leah here as my co-driver, as a passenger. She can also always comment on that. Here now, for example, the speed hump here. Yeah, that's so far good. I'm also later on searching for a little bit quicker humps and so on, see if this initial effect where I was complaining that the suspension is more like lifting off the ground is actually solved. But from this very first few minutes, the first experience is that, it won't feel like a sports car now, and it will never be as agile as a smaller CX-5 because it's just bigger, it's heavier and so on. But definitely I feel they have majorly improved this year how it feels, because when I initially started driving the CX-60 from the very first time, just on the first few meters I felt like, wait a minute, something's off here, like suspension-wise and so on, and I don't have this impression now. Woo! Acceleration 0 to 70 that was, and when you push this diesel here, it goes astonishingly well. Yeah, don't expect that, because when you just gently push it, it doesn't feel that quick, but when you really hammer it, then it's actually there. And also interesting here with the red instruments, then this sporty instrument style right there. That was also in the sport mode. You can go back for the normal mode to keep the RPM lower and also for the better efficiency and so on. So we're heading on to the motorway. Let's see about that. And here also that the first bit quicker corners, so to speak. And yeah, it feels actually like rounded more one with the vehicle. That's actually then improved in comparison to the pre-update, so to speak. Here, let's get on. I have actually a quite good feeling for the vehicle. Let's also make a lane change then a little bit higher speeds. Here. There we go. That's a new A3 right there, indeed. It's A3 facelift, it is actually. And so far, quite smoothly on the motorway. And silent also. Here at about 70 kilometers an hour right now. And there's, as I said, a lot of traffic around us, and you don't hear too much from these vehicles here actually. There we go, next lane change. So I have a good feeling for the steering wheel. Yeah, I really have the feeling that this little bit weirdness I've felt before is actually gone that's a very good thing. Main finding about this update here. And now we have changed the weather for you to show you some more motorway driving and also about the assistance systems. It was also always a good test when there is worse weather. And it's also saying even more about the sound insulation. And so far, so good here on the motorway. You can also do one more acceleration here, slightly uphill from 70 to 100. That's it. So definitely reasonably, very nice. But even better is of course the efficiency of this diesel engine. Soon also going to talk about the consumption there one more time. And then let's set the cruise control to 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. And there's also possible, you can activate or deactivate it, this active lane keeping assist blind spot monitor. You have like a small yellow triangle in the side mirrors. It's also good to have. Could be a little bit larger maybe, but here let's see how the car is being kept in the lane and if it's like nervous or not. And so far pretty calm. Motorway was also taking a slight bend here. In the front there we're going slightly to the left. Let's see how the steering wheel does that. But so far it's actually quite calm. Here also it's enough when I touch the steering wheel. So I feel it's also more sophisticated than in the other Mazda models. This is here the newest Mazda model. Let's see here now. On to the left. Yeah, no hectic corrections or something like that. Very smooth. So that seems fine. It cannot do an automatic lane change. That's not possible. But yeah, I think we can also live without that, definitely. So yeah, that's like the things you need from the assistance systems. They seem to work pretty well, actually. And yeah, I can just stress again, yeah, at least at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, even though there's the rain and the cars when they're passing is of course always louder than in rainy conditions, but it's also fine as for the noise insulation. So what about some corners here for you? I have to say, I mean, it's not a true fun machine in the sense of like a Mazda 3 or something like that. It's of course also the bigger car. But also here, when you're doing the corners, you feel the significant difference. It's not that the passengers would be super delighted about putting an Alpine Pass with this vehicle or something like that. So, yeah, Lear doesn't seem to have like the most fun in corners. I'm gonna say it like that. But there is a significance in the improvement, and that's what I really find cool, that they really tackled this problem. So it is way more fun than before, even though it's not like a true fun SUV yet. But once again, I have to applaud them that they really took this feedback so serious and they really did as much as they can do to improve it. And our consumption test result here actually confirmed what we tested earlier in another review. So you can drive this one easily with 6 liters on 1 kilometers, 39 mpg US or 47 mpg UK, which is pretty decent for this size of a vehicle. And we also want to take you here on a tour of the plug-in hybrid, because here the upgrade
white
is...
interior?
Yes, with white interior. I love the white interior, especially with the fabric here. Yeah, the only thing is maybe like, I also love the matte wood, but I feel it should have been a bright, like birch style matte wood, right? And not like this. It kind of has a very yellow, yellowish tone.
Wood.
Yeah, smoked wood. Yeah, I mean smoked wood would in more like be black, but yeah. Smoke yellow wood, yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, I mean it's here about the plug-in hybrid. So yeah, 125 something like that kilograms more. So you do feel a little bit of more weight, yes, and less weight is always better for the driving experience. However, what I feel is that with these suspension upgrades, the difference is not that large anymore. So if you close your eyes, you just start driving and no one would actually tell you which engine you are driving, and you also don't listen to some engine sound, then you don't feel that big of a difference anymore. So before that, I felt there was a significant difference where I really said like, oh wow, that diesel really drives way better. So it seems to be that the old suspension setup was way more sensitive to this extra weight of the plug-in hybrid, whereas here now the new suspension setup is way less sensitive to this extra weight from the plug-in hybrid. And one reason for that could also be Next to the things I mentioned, like stiffer dampers on the front, stiffer dampers on the rear, but then again more travel on the rear and also the softer springs on the rear. They also removed for all the versions, there was like a transverse stabilizer on the rear axle. That one has also been removed, and that is also the reason why it was like the most critical problem was plug-in hybrid in the corner together with the hump. And then like the rear axle was almost like lifting. And all these measures, and especially also removing the stabilizer, is now leading to an effect that it's more planted, basically. Like it sticks more to the road, sticks more to the ground. And I have to say that I would have expected once again that the plug-in hybrid drives worse actually, but we don't feel too much difference. It is still a difference when you're like really going very quick in tight corners, but that is also something where this car is not really at home and probably would not do that often. So here also interesting to know that is this significant update is also doing very well here for the plug-in hybrid. As for the consumption of the PHEV, there you always have to say it really depends. Yes, the battery is rather small at 14.5 kilowatt hours net. The gross figure is a little bit misleading because it's about the net usable figure. Yeah, and you can't score too many kilometers pure electric. It's more about the mixture in the drivetrain, or if you charge very frequently and maybe do like a quick commuting to work all electric. And then it always depends on like how often do you recharge. Then it depends on what's like the real fuel consumption. But the long-term vehicle will more be like the diesel. This one here is better for the tax benefits. Here, for example, you also feel when the petrol engine suddenly sets in, sometimes it feels a little bit like, I need to work a little bit more, a little bit stressed. On the other hand, when you are in these electric moments, it's something that Leah really appreciates, that it's bringing more calmness to the vehicle when you're driving all electric. Whereas, by the way, both vehicles have like, at least a top speed of 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour. The diesel even a little bit faster, for whom it may concern. The pure electric driving here is limited to 140 kilometers an hour. Pricing from 50 to 70,000 euros in Germany, for example, depending on low trim or high trim. And on the North American market, the models usually start like 10,000 euros below that. And if you go for the CX-80, the bigger model, in the entry, it's way more expensive. But if you go for like fuller spec and so on, then the prices are not too different actually. And my advice would really be going for the 3.3 liter diesel here with a CX-60, maybe even the rear-wheel drive version, because it's even more efficient and also lower in the entry price, and also go for a lower trim level that you can get the fabric seats. They are more comfortable, they are more breathable and animal friendly, and you don't need so much equipment. And this vehicle makes sense when you save a lot of money in comparison to the German competitors. If you go full spec, then you can maybe also get a leasing offer from BMW or something like that. But here is where the car really shines, when the price-performance ratio is really played out.